It's lights out and away we go. Hamilton then gets away well, Verstappen off the line well.
Hello Formula 1 IndyCar fans. Today is December 4th, 2020. I'm here to tell you about my review on the Bahrain GP back on November 29th. But the big story is what happened a few corners in on the first lap, and my god, it was like so bizarre. What you see here might shock you. Yeah, isn't that amazing? I mean, like, Romain Grosjean, after accidentally being pitted by Danny Kvyat of Russia in the AlphaTauri car, blew up. And I didn't think that was going to happen like that. I maybe hit, at over 140 miles per hour in that barrier, which broke up, which shouldn't have been, brought out the red flag. But the bigger surprise is the fact that while the car blew up as well, split in half, is the fact that Grosjean came out of that car on his own power after 20 seconds under that fire. Like, barely a scratch, although he did suffer a few minor burns to his hands and ankles. But I gotta say, a combination of the seatbelts, the helmet, the Hans device, and above all, and I will say above all, the halo device above his head. Because I doubt that, without that halo device, despite everything else, well, I mean, take one of those things I mentioned out of the equation, and the situation could have been a lot more different in a very negative light. So thank God, like, Romain Grosjean from the Haas team was safe after all that. So he's just been discharged from the Bahrain hospital. All in all, you can say that the designers of these F1 cars, who created that halo device, they were using their Bahrains down in Bahrain for him. And since Grosjean was initially against the halo device, I'm sure he has reconsidered his opinion, especially how it kept him alive, and how, like, he may have said at one point that he might be, like, going to Indy cars next year. He might reconsider that after what he's put his family and friends through. So what will he do? Take a sabbatical? Who knows? Just like Perez if he can't get a seat at Red Bull next year. That said, it did red flag the race and create quite a stir-up, and a lot of people, like, shocked and surprised to see the Grosjean come out there. I swear, that accident kind of reminds me of what happened to Ronnie Peterson at Monza in '78 when his car blew up, and he didn't die right away, but fire hardly had anything to do with his death, but long time, and like the guardrail, and well, it was a pretty flimsy car. But worse off, what happened in '70 to Jochen Rindt at the same track, his car went through a guardrail too, and ugh. But worse off, what would happen to Francois Sever in '73 and Helmut Koenig in '74 at Watkins Glen was by far even more sickening, because the guardrail decapitated them really badly. Now, if they had a halo device in those days, I highly doubt that we'd be saying adieu and auf Wiedersehen to these drivers at this time. But safety continues to improve. It will never be completely safe. We have to accept that, because that's what these drivers are supposed to do, accept the risks of the sport. And that's what makes it very thrilling, if you're willing to take the risks. Nonetheless, I'm sure safety is always important, and I agree about it. Secondly, when the race began, after Grosjean came out of that accident under his own power and then taken to the hospital, just a lap later, they say yellows breed yellows, but more like in this case, reds breed yellows, as Lance Stroll of Racing Point went out in a pink pirouette. Unsurprisingly, Lewis Hamilton would lead the race all the way to the end, giving himself another victory to his tally, having already won the championship for a 7th time. But surprisingly for the next round, which is supposed to also take place in Bahrain, called the Sakhir GP, which is a different configuration of the track, Lewis Hamilton is actually going to sit out this race, as well as the race after in Abu Dhabi, because he unfortunately has been diagnosed with the COVID-19.
Leaping legends!
Surprising, isn't it? So who's going to replace him for the race to be Bottas' teammate? Williams driver George Russell has actually been promoted to Mercedes, because for one thing, not only is Russell British, but the Williams team is provided with Mercedes engines, so I guess that kind of makes sense. Not the British side, but the Mercedes part, which gives him the credit. And already in the first few practices in Sakhir these past few hours, he was the fastest. Jack Aitken of Formula 2 racing in Britain will replace George Russell at Williams, while at Haas, Romain Grosjean will be replaced by Pietro Fittipaldi of Brazil. He is Emerson Fittipaldi's grandson. Yeah, Emerson, the two-time F1 world champion in 72 and 4 and two-time Indy 500 champion, winning in 89 and 93, with the second time shamelessly drinking his own brand of orange juice instead of cold milk in victory lane. Not pleasing many traditionalists, I can tell you that.
Boo! Boo! Boo!
In 2021, the Haas lineup will consist of Russia's Nikita Mazepin and Germany's Mick Schumacher. That's right, Michael Schumacher's son Mick is joining F1 for the first time, and the term Schumacher and Ferrari will be somewhat synonymous with F1 once again, because the Haas team have Ferrari engines in them. Hamilton won this, but now will sit out the last two races now that he's been diagnosed with COVID-19, is the fact that while Racing Point driver Sergio Perez was on hand for another podium in a row, with 5 laps to go, his engine quit, putting his car out in a pink flame, giving Albon the chance to finish in third behind his teammate Verstappen for a Red Bull second 3. And who knows if that will cement his deal to stay with Red Bull in the future, Alex Albon. But I believe that Danny Kvyat is out at AlphaTauri next year, so that will leave Tsunoda of Japan to be a potential replacement for him to work alongside Pierre Gasly at Scuderia AlphaTauri.
Very interesting.
In other racing news, it has been recently announced in Formula E that Audi and BMW will leave the series, and unfortunately as for Volkswagen Motorsport, they're pulling out of their racing program completely altogether. Audi will direct their attention in racing to the Dakar Racing Series and the Le Mans Prototype Series once again, so that's one where you can look at Audi. As for Jaguar Racing in Formula E, I guess their spots are safe, so for all cat lovers out there, this is what my sister's cat Meatball probably has to say about the potential to win more races with Audi and Beamer out of the picture. Yeah, that's one cat to another. I hate to end my videos on a downer, but I recently read that there's a distinct possibility that the Long Beach Grand Prix might not be coming back next year because of the pandemic, as the governor of California has shut down all sports venues in California, so who knows if it'll even come back when this pandemic has passed. Same with Laguna Seca. And if not, this could be a problem because a lot of people depend on Long Beach for like local businesses, as well as like the Long Beach Grand Prix is the most second most popular venue on the IndyCar circuit, and to lose that would be pretty catastrophic, especially for IMSA too, as they're also synonymous with Long Beach. But if that's going to happen, I pray it doesn't, I say the IndyCars might as well go back to Pocono. It's a good replacement. I know it's probably not as popular as you think, but I like Pocono since I live in Pennsylvania, to say the least. Well, I just hope it doesn't happen, because lose Long Beach, there goes another piece of IndyCar's prestige for good. To end this video, tune in at noon Eastern Time on ESPN for the Sakir GP and see if Valtteri Bottas, George Russell, or Max Verstappen will be victorious. I'm Aaron Cylinder, firing on all cylinders.